Okay, I have a lot of thoughts about an absolutely remarkable thing. I didn't think I would have this many thoughts, but they're happening. Yeah, that book feels very caffeinated, was the first thing that I said to one of my groups, and someone agreed with me, so I thought maybe my thoughts aren't just me being weird. I was gonna write all this down and process it and everything, but for some reason it seems like making a video is the more appropriate approach. So yeah, this book. When I started reading this book, I thought I was just super excited because I could hear Hank's voice all over the place, and I was like, oh yes, this will be amazing. In the same way that I kind of hear Maureen Johnson's voice all over her books, and I love it intensely. But there was something kind of dark about the book that I wasn't expecting, like something almost insidious. I got through the first two chapters the first time I read it, and I was like, wow, my heart is beating. I wonder if anyone else has had this experience, but it was all very exciting in a kind of anxiety-inducing way. So I started reading it really slowly, like one chapter every few days, just depending on how tired I was, which I'm tired a lot, so that's why it took me this long to finish reading it. But I had gotten to the point where it was like 2/3 through the book, and they were telling me that the thing was gonna happen in the next chapter. I didn't know what the thing was, but it was obviously gonna be like the start of the climax of the story, because that's how books work. So I stopped reading it, just thinking I would get a chunk of time at some point to finish it, and that didn't happen. So yesterday afternoon I'd gotten some fruit tea with my friends, and it was a new sketchy place, and my brain reacted quite a bit to that. I'm not very good at caffeine, so maybe it was that, maybe it was just whatever other ingredients they had in there, the syrup or whatever, made me just really awake, and my brain was going all over the place. So I started reading the book at 1 a.m. and finished it at 4 a.m. And hence my first review of it. It was so caffeinated, and I was so caffeinated, and that's just how the whole story felt. I'm gonna get into specifics now. Probably not spoilers yet. But April's character, at first I was like, oh, this is so Hank, and there's a bunch of other characters and the stuff that they do are also so Hank, because he obviously wrote this. But I also feel like she is the manic representation of Hank, and I really understand what he means now when he said that after reading this book he understood other YouTubers better in a way that he hadn't had that type of empathy for them before. And I feel like it's because he wrote one of them as the protagonist of his story, and she's both a representation of him but also of the YouTuber as a construction, and that construction itself kind of terrifies me, and I hate it. This book was the first one I've ever had this set of feelings towards, and I'm not sure still what that set of feelings is, but it definitely includes a whole lot of disgust towards April. I know she's doing her best, but the things she does, I'm like, why are you not stopping to think about it through so much of it? And the way that the narration kind of wards you off at the beginning of the book and is like, hey, I know I did some really shitty things, and it's I'm not gonna be portrayed in the best light and all that. Okay, yeah, I get that. She has come from that place to somewhere better. I guess I was expecting somewhere in that last third for her to kind of reach more hankiness. really. There are some thoughts in there where it's like she says like a whole paragraph of stuff that is like thoughtful and it's good, but like it's the on-screen version of her that is doing that versus like herself. So actual spoilers starting now. When she tries to communicate with Maya via a video in which she reveals that she knows the 767 sequence, like that is the part where I'm like, oh no, I still don't like you. I never have felt this kind of visceral dislike for a main character. Like even the creeps and the like horrible like murderer protagonists I've read, like I don't feel that for them. But somehow for April, I'm like, you can do better, you can be better, and you are not. So the idea of just like, why didn't she just message Maya instead of posting on the internet for all of humanity to see? Why didn't she do that first? Is like my biggest issue with her character kind of simplified into that one moment. I guess like not her character. She's very well written for who she is. I just don't like her. So yeah, some very complicated feelings about this book. In terms of the actual like sci-fi story of it, I loved all of that. Like the mystery of the Carls and like kind of thinking complexly about, are they good, are they bad? Is the fact that they are here what makes them good or bad? Which is kind of the question that pops up in the second half of the book. That was all very cool to me, and it's new. It's different from other sci-fi I've read. I don't personally read that much sci-fi, but when I took a class on science fiction, it was like a pretty comprehensive overview of the history of sci-fi in some ways. So let me know if I'm wrong, because I would love to learn more, and I also feel like I should read more sci-fi in my life. It's a very unique book. I think the biggest factor that I'm like confused and like have like a weird kind of raw feeling towards is the fact that when you think of making a video, when you first start a YouTube channel, I feel like there's always the smallest part of you that is thinking like, maybe this will go viral, or maybe like a few thousand people will see it and I'll be minorly well known. And like that part of you, like at least for me, it was like I tried to stifle it. I push it off to somewhere else because I didn't want that to be my goal. And there's like some degree of like, every time I mention that I do make videos, like people are like, oh, is it like because you want to get famous? And I'm like, no, I'm here to have fun, right? And to meet people and to have friends the way that I found so many of you. And making videos is kind of like part of that connection, which I love. But when you first start saying that sentence, and before you actually get to the place where you're very comfortable with like, this is all I want, I feel like that little voice is always still there. And April is kind of the ultimate like representation of that little voice going wrong. Well, going wrong because she actually does get all the fame and the glory and attention, and it's raw to me because seeing that from the perspective of someone that it's happening to is incredibly frightening. And I would like to not be that person if that ever happened to me. But also, like, the way the internet works is like, you just need that one thing, and then everyone, or like a huge subset of everyone, could know your name or know your face. And that's some stuff. Yeah, so lots of thoughts about social media. For some reason, I want to hesitate to say whether I like the book. I think I do like it, but there's something about it. I don't know when I will be able to read it again. I feel like a lot of books, it's like I read it and I'm like, oh, I wish I could have that experience of reading it the first time again. And this one, it's like, oh yeah, I will never have the experience of reading it the first time again. But also, ooh, that was something I don't really want to experience again. But yeah, I think I will read it again at some point. It's just something about Hank's voice. It's kind of unexpected to me, but I like it. But yeah, this is a masterpiece because it's given me thoughts and they're complicated in a way that my thoughts about books have not been complicated before, and that is an amazing feat. Bravo, Hank. And I will remember not to go to that tea place again.